Hello everyone, my name is Radovan Vojtko and I'm CEO and Head of Research at Quantpedia. So today we will discuss AI. We will discuss AI from the perspective of the quant who is trying to use the AI as a junior quant analyst. We will try to use the AI to help us to backtest the strategy, suggest the strategy, etc. etc. We have the whole article on our blog about whether we can finally use the ChatGPT as a quantitative analyst. We try to answer this topic approximately 18 months ago, so at the end of the year 2023, and we had two articles. The first one was, can we backtest asset allocation trading strategy in ChatGPT, another, hello ChatGPT, can you backtest strategy for me? In those two articles we explored the idea of using artificial intelligence to backtest trading strategies. About 18 months is a long time, so since then the AI has continued to develop and the ChatGPT has evolved from simple Q&A assistant. Right now it's a more complex tool and it can aid in the developing, testing of investment strategies, or at least this is what are the more optimistic voices in the field saying. However, what we feel is that it may be a good idea to critically revisit the topic. So our goal right now is to evaluate how well today's AI models can perform as a quasi-junior quantitative analysts, and we will try to highlight not only the promising use cases but also what are the limitations, because there still are limitations. Okay, so firstly, the model selections. So firstly, we need to select the model that's suitable for the task of junior quantitative analyst. So we explored different options. We tried using Claude AI, Gemini, ChatGPT. The progress in AI models is really fast. Some of them are better in some subtasks, others are better in another one. From our perspective, we have not significant differences between them, so they all make plus or minus the same mistakes. Therefore, based on our needs, we chose ChatGPT. But the analysis is probably the same for all of the models which are at the moment at the current stage. So we selected the GPT-4o model or 4.0 model. It proved to be the most versatile, but we also considered more advanced models like 4.5, but it is expected to depreciate it, so this article would not be relevant. So this is the article based on the model 4.0, 4o. When the better models will be delivered in the future, we will retest the article. So what we try to accomplish. So as our article suggests, our goal was to find out whether the process of creating and of the trading strategy can be assisted or supported by AI. And if not the whole process, at least some part of the process. So for that, we would need to have a data.
Unlock the power of Quantpedia Pro with over 900 premium strategies extracted from 100,000 research papers and more than 30 quant reports. Model full portfolios, generate real-time reports and save hours of work. Quantpedia Pro, your edge in quantitative investing.
So we downloaded data from July 2015 until April 2025 for SPI, for US equities, for iShares 7 to 10 year treasury bonds, and for Deutsche Bank index ETF. So we have investment universe that consists of equities, treasury bonds, and commodities. So what is the result? We took the data, we prepared the data. We ran into some issues when we tried to work with the data with ChatGPT, but I will summarize them later. And we asked ChatGPT to implement a simple trading strategy, so the fixed percentage allocation, which is a really simple task. It's something like, you allocate 60% to stocks, 40% to bonds, 10% to commodities, and give me the performance curve. So we asked the ChatGPT to build a portfolio, to plot the performance of underlying ETFs, give us the performance and risk to return characteristics like Sharpe ratio, etc., etc. There were some problems, but at the end we were able to receive those characteristics and we were able to plot the equity curve. Okay, let's move on. So then we asked ChatGPT to suggest some fixed asset allocation strategies, and ChatGPT suggested some for growth or permanent portfolio strategies, and we backtested them and we got the results. Okay, let's move on. This is the simple task. Let's move on. So after running the basic fixed asset allocation and checking the performance, the next step was, can we do better? So the one thing is to create a simple portfolio with fixed weights, but markets are moving, so we asked ChatGPT to come up with a reasonable modifications that can improve the performance. So instead of assigning static weights, we wanted active asset allocation strategy that shifts between bonds and commodities and equities based on the current price. We were asking ChatGPT to just use the price, so the performance, volatility or something, so not other data, just the price data alone. ChatGPT suggested some strategies. ChatGPT then tried to backtest those strategies. At the end, it handled the task. Once again, not without the problems. We will get to the problems later. But at the end, after prompting, we were able to get some strategies, and we were able to get the backtests. These were the following tickers. Okay, so then the step number 3. So once we saw that we can build the active asset allocation strategy, the next challenge was to find a more balanced strategy. So not the only one that performs well on the paper, but it's robust, sensible, etc. So at the end, we had to run some optimization, tuning the parameters, and we had to choose best period for the indicators. So once again, we asked ChatGPT to help us to test different variations of the strategy, adjusting key parameters. So in our case, it's mostly the time frames. So the idea was not to just do blind optimization, but to find the strategy that all makes sense. So once again, we run into some problems, but at the end, this is the strategy that ChatGPT suggested. And at the end, the strategy suggests to calculate the 100-day simple moving average filter for each ETF, SPI, EF, and DBC. If the asset is over the filter, we can buy the ETF, but we need to estimate the volatility. So we should calculate the short-term rolling volatility. So in this case, it's 10-day rolling volatility. This captures the short-term risk. And then we use the inverse volatility weighting. So from the assets that are over the moving average, we assign the higher weight to the lower volatility asset and lower weight to higher volatility asset. And in the end, we apply the volatility targeting on the portfolio level. So to, 10% annualized volatility. So we have a 4 steps. The first step, the assets which are over the 100-day simple moving average, then estimate the volatility, inverse volatility weighting, and then at the end, the volatility targeting on the portfolio level. Here we have suggested strategy, the optimal strategy by ChatGPT. It's the brown line, and here is the robustness testing. So at the end, we got what we wanted. So far, it seems like a happy story. So we asked ChatGPT for the strategy. We spent like 2 or 3 hours playing with the ChatGPT. In the end, we got the strategy. So that's definitely significant upgrade. When we compare the whole process with the analysis we performed like, a year ago or a year and a half ago. So ChatGPT is good in quant finance, so we can suggest a lot of variations. And it's always coming up with suggestions for the next steps, etc. So the exploratory part is fine. But what is the problem is that ChatGPT is still an AI chatbot. It can communicate ideas and discuss eloquently because this is what it's trained for, so to discuss, but it's not a data analyst. So the primary reason why ChatGPT exists is because it wants to chat with you, so it wants to make you happy with the chatting. So what does it mean? It tends to be really over-optimistic and it doesn't think. It answers questions, it tries to make you willing to continue in the conversation, but a lot of the time ChatGPT presented ideas and analysis and made extremely naive mistakes in the analysis. And we had to constantly recheck individual steps in the analysis, and it was really tiring. So what went wrong? So firstly, data preparation. So we encountered few issues with working with the data. So initially we tried to obtain the data directly from internet via ChatGPT. So you can ask ChatGPT to obtain the data from the data connectors that ChatGPT has at the moment. You can obtain the data, try to obtain data also in the cloud, in the Gemini, etc. It wasn't working well. So we didn't receive data at all, or the data were not correct. At the end, we had a lot of the problems at the first step. So at the end, we decided to use data ourselves. So we provided data ourselves to the ChatGPT. And this led to another prototype of the problems. So we are using the dates in, day, month, yearly format. And we are using the comma as a decimal separator. ChatGPT really struggled to interpret the data correctly. It was not. At the end, we had to find out what is the familiar way that the ChatGPT understands the data, and we had to give the data to ChatGPT in the familiar way. So it's year, month, day for dates, and the dot as a decimal point. So you need to really get data into the way that ChatGPT understands them, but because otherwise it's a problem. Okay, so we prepared the data set in this way, and it made this interaction smoother, and it reduced misunderstanding during the analysis. So that's the first step, data preparation. Then data corruption. So we gave data to ChatGPT and we asked ChatGPT to plot the equity curves, and these were the results. So for some reasons we do not understand why, in a lot of the cases the order of the data changed unexpectedly, entire section of the data were lost, and then at the end this is how does it look like. We do not understand exactly why. It's probably how the memory works in handling the data in ChatGPT or in chatbots in general. So we frequently had to re-upload the same dataset because it was either forgotten during the analysis process or it was corrupted. We uploaded the data, we ran the analysis, and when we wanted to do the more steps, we come up into the problem and we realized that ChatGPT forgot the data. So we had to re-upload the data once again, run through the analysis because it forgot first steps, and then once again. So when we were doing this over and over. So what does it mean is that there is probably the problem, and it will be hard in the future to maintain the consistency across the data sets or across the tests, and there are definitely limitations when you want to work with the data, with the large data sets. So we were working with just 3 ETFs. We had just 10-year history, so it was, I don't know, few thousand of data points, so it's not a lot, and we had this kind of the problems. Okay, so if you are able to fix the problems in the data, then there is another problem, and it's the way how the ChatGPT and all of the chatbots work is that they take the data, they suggest Python code or even code in some language, and run the code to generate equity curves and generate the results. So generate what is the performance and what is the risk return metrics. However, here comes the catch. So when you ask the ChatGPT to plot the equity curves, calculate the performance metrics, the model may interpret these tasks in its own way, and they do not need to match your expectations. Firstly, you need to prompt the model several times until the model understands what you want it to calculate, and then even when ChatGPT tries to understand, it generates the code that you need to inspect really carefully, because the most common mistakes usually occur in the data formatting and implementation of the strategy function, how the risk and returns and drawdowns are calculated. I mean, at the end, you need to check any line of the code that ChatGPT suggests and run it. Also, another thing is that ChatGPT usually is very overpromising on the theoretical side. So ChatGPT suggests the strategy, underlying strategy has like 3 steps. So for example, the strategy consists of 3 rules applied to the dataset. Very simple rules like pick the best performing asset, calculate correlation weight inversely. But at the end, ChatGPT suggests this idea, but only implements 2 of them. You need to check the code every time if all of the suggestions that ChatGPT suggested are in the code and if it incorporates all of that suggested. And even when you do that, you are still not, winning, because there can be hallucinations. So in our case, we were exploring multiple strategies at once. We aim to analyze just the performance of the most successful, and we asked ChatGPT to do the analysis. ChatGPT did the analysis, then we took the code, ran the code on our own data, and we received completely different performance and risk characteristics. So we asked ChatGPT to check whether the ChatGPT doesn't have a problem or doesn't have a mistake. But ChatGPT said us that it doesn't have the mistake. So in the end, we explained ChatGPT where the mistake is. So once again, is no matter how small or insignificant step it seems, is absolutely crucial, because sometimes ChatGPT produces absolutely made up numbers, even when the code it suggests for calculation of the numbers is correct. So ChatGPT had the correct code, ran the code, numbers were different from the numbers that we received. So I don't know how to why. Okay, at the end, then we have a cyclic conversation. When we discovered errors in the calculated performance metrics, we wanted to understand why they occurred. We asked ChatGPT, and after follow-up prompts, the model circled around various explanations, differences in the data, etc., adjustments, blah, blah, blah. However, we pointed out that none of these applied, and AI continued to deflect the issue rather than acknowledge or correct the faulty calculations. This is the experience we were receiving really repeatedly. So ChatGPT will give you the confident answer, but it's not reliable. You need to check what is the issue, if there is issue, and even when there is issue and you point out the issue to ChatGPT or to chatbot, it is not able to correct the issue. If you take the step back and use AI just for brainstorming, it's also we can encounter a similar issue. So the model often gets stuck on the basic concept and tries to build everything around it. So for example, if you begin with a strategy that involves selecting top N assets, model will continue suggest the variation only of this one step, and unless we explicitly state that we want to avoid using these criteria, it will be still the part of the new proposal. What the AI tends is that it tends to anchor on the initial direction, and it struggles to then explore different ideas unless you really guide it to and prompt it to do so. At the end, there is tendency of all of the chatbots to over-optimization. ChatGPT, and it's not just the ChatGPT, it is with all of the chatbots, they tend to be optimization machine. So they give you suggestions or ideas, but those ideas and suggestions, they tend to add degrees of the freedom into the strategy. So the strategy is more and more and more over-optimized to the past data when you are following the steps. How does it look like? So ChatGPT suggests the strategy, and then when you ask ChatGPT to improve the strategy, it will give you an additional filter, and then an additional filter. So what does it mean is that from a simple strategy, you will get the strategy that has, like, I don't know, 5 different filters. So it's really, really over-optimized and is not robust. It's a logical way from the point of the view of the ChatGPT. How does it work like? So I mean, it's trying to improve and to give you more ideas, but those ideas, they have a limited value. So it's better than usually not to add filters and more filters, but better to ask ChatGPT to prompt for different directions. So it has to be human in charge, and it's not a good idea to rely blindly on a chatbot when you do the analysis. Okay, so what is the conclusion? So we definitely moved into the good direction when we compare to the situation that was 18 months ago. So 18 months ago, we received nearly nothing. So at the moment, we were able to receive a trading strategy. Yeah, we spent some time prompting and checking and correcting mistakes from the ChatGPT. At the end, we got some strategy. What could go better? Definitely, if it did not ask ChatGPT to be the quant analyst and just ask it to do what it does, so I mean to be the chatbot, so I mean suggest a few ideas, and then we took those ideas and implement them ourselves on our data, the process could be definitely faster, significantly faster, 1/5 or 1/10 of the time that we spend on ChatGPT. Because most of the time we spent with the ChatGPT was correcting the mistakes ChatGPT did, and when you are the data analyst, you know what are the mistakes you should avoid. Like, I don't know, forward-looking bias, data preparation, etc., etc. AI made significant progress, but what we can do at the moment is to help automate the parts of the workflow and save the precious time, but you really need to select and understand how you are using ChatGPT and for what simple particular part of the task. You cannot definitely run the whole process of coming up with ideas, building the strategy, testing the strategy, and I mean presenting the results in the ChatGPT, because after 5-6 prompts there will be so much errors in the data analysis that you will not be able to rely on the data. So AI is a classical tool at the moment. So it's like a sharp knife. So you can make a lot of useful things with AI if you understand the limitation. And if you do not know what you are doing, you can cut your own finger with it. Because when you rely blindly on ChatGPT, after 5 prompts, you will end up with something that is absolutely not reliable. So I hope that you like this review. We will definitely get back and we will test ChatGPT and other chatbots in the future once they will come up with the new versions of the models. But this is the current state as it is. And we will see how it will look like at the end of the year or beginning of the year 2026. So we are looking forward to the new models. It can be from Gemini, it can be from OpenAI, it can be from whoever. We are looking at that. We are actively using them in our work, and we will definitely do another review in, I don't know, next 6 to 9 months once the new generation of the models will come. Thank you very much. I hope that you liked the review. In case yes, please give us the like, share the video, go to our social network channels, like us, subscribe to our channel, and visit Quantpedia so you can learn a lot on the Quantpedia. You can find new trading strategies. I hope that will help you to be the better quant analyst and quant portfolio manager. Thank you very much.
Are you interested? Then pick another video to learn more, or subscribe to Quantpedia Pro and try how our analytics and reporting significantly save time spent on quantitative research.